In a second, I'm going to ask Shirley just to tell us a little bit about the background of shifting from CNA 1.0 to CNA 2.0. Then we're going to train you guys in the use of the CNA web app, specifically for the pilot. I recognize a lot of your faces, so I know a lot of you participated in our UAT session, and we appreciate you. So some of it will look familiar, some of it will look a little bit different because we didn't show you everything during UAT. At the end, we'll just make sure that you know how to contact technical support, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. And then I will say, you've got a number of us who know a whole lot about the CNA web app. If you want to be just chatting with us, we'll be monitoring the chat box, and so we can just respond to your questions as we're running through. And then if you have some burning question, you can interrupt us, or you can just hold it to the end of the Q&A. So that said, Shirley, let me turn it back over to you.
Awesome, thanks, Jeff. So really quickly, the CNA 1.0 started as a requirement, so to speak, for our comprehensive support and improvement schools. We needed a tool in which those schools will be able to identify areas of success as well as areas of opportunity and areas for growth in relation to their comprehensive improvement plans. And as you can see, it was in partnership with our regional education laboratory, ESUs, and NDE staff. And once we implemented that tool, we got significant feedback around it actually being, it could be a better tool if it was in fact truly comprehensive and took into account other needs assessments that exist. And if in fact it would be able to be in a platform in which multiple users could engage with the tool at the same time. So fast forward to 2.0, where we not only wanted to make sure we account for the AQuest updated language, so you can see, like, we wanted to make sure we call out leadership domain. We made some tenant change names, like I believe the assessment one is now student achievement and growth. So we wanted to make sure that those things are captured. And for all of you that are out there and know about the Rule 10 revisions, while they're currently at a pause right now, it doesn't mean that we're gonna like just stop some of this meaningful work. We also wanna make sure that we can anticipate any of those future changes. So that's why the future is there in italics. So while it's not happening now, the CNA is definitely a tool for continuous improvement processes, right? Not accountability. So I want to make that crystal clear. And then the last piece here is that we brought together multiple people, many of you on the screen and others who are not with us today, to truly ensure that we brought in multiple perspectives and roles to truly create this a comprehensive needs assessment. So with that, I'm turn it back over to Jeff, and thanks.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we jump into the training, I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you to, of course, Shirley and NDE, our partners in this work, Marzano Research, Basis Policy Research, everyone who participated in UAT, a lot of you guys, but I wanted to do just 3 call outs because we had some 3 super UAT users. So Amy from ESU 13, who's with us again today, Jen from ESU 4, who's with us today, Don from NDE. I don't see Don today, but please tell Don thank you. And you'll see, I think, everybody who gave us feedback, but Amy, Jen, and Don in particular, we'll see we were responsive to feedback, and there will be a couple moments where we'll give you some sense of, and here's what's coming, and by what's coming, we're talking about in a couple of weeks from now. So thank you guys. And then of course, everybody who's participating here live with us today and everybody who's attending virtually, thank you for participating. And without further ado, let's jump into what we're going to cover. So we're going to take you all the way through from the registration process. So this CNA is a web app. It means that you're going to log into it using your web browser, the web browser of your choice. So pick the one that you're most comfortable using, or the one that your ESU or school district likes you to use. We'll take you through how you verify your user credentials. So you'll have an email address, you'll have a password. We'll get you logged in. We'll fire up a CNA. We'll add CNA team members. I'm not going to read this whole list, but and eventually we'll get to the point where we log you out. And we do want to make just one important disclaimer. So because we have so many of you and you represent NDE, you're coming from ESUs, some of you are at districts, some of you are at schools. I'm really curious about Kim and everybody who's in that room with Kim, because I would love to know where you guys are, but there's a whole bunch of you, and thank you for joining. And then eventually we get down to the school level and we have what we call a CNA manager and we have a CNA team member, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means today. But we really want to hone in and focus on the CNA manager role. And this is somebody who is responsible for we're in the way we imagine this, someone who's at a school who's actually responsible for scoring the CNA in partnership with some number of stakeholders at that school. And we'll have some additional training materials that will be available if you're coming in as somebody from NDE support staff or ESU support staff and so on. But everybody, for the purposes of the pilot, in order to get the most rich experience in the app, is going to have that CNA manager role, regardless if you have a second role or even a third role in some cases. So again, we'll focus on CNA manager, and when you get into the app yourselves, you'll see why we're focusing on that. And we did want to call out two other really important roles. One is system administrator. And so you're going to interact with, as you use the app, folks like me, Mike Roll is out there, Dana Hastings is out there, Divya Doma is out there, Nishchal Ramaneni is out there, Rohit Vangor is out there, and I think I covered everybody from our team. We're system administrators. We're really there to make it so that there's no technical challenges. We want you to get in and use the app and just be successful at school improvement. So anytime you need help, feel free to reach out to us. When you contact support, that's probably who you're going to be talking to. And then research team staff, again, this is sponsored by Rel Central work coming from IES. And that means that there are some folks from Marzano and Basis Policy Research who are there to make sure that you guys are successful too. So that said, I'm going to turn the screen over to Rohit from my team. And let's see, Rohit, let me see if I have the power to do that. And if not, surely I may enlist you to do that. I think I might need you to do that. Let's see.
I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Jeff. So yes, hello everyone. My name is Rohit Vangor, or Ro for short, easy and simple. So today we're going to just go through our CNA workflow with some extra little tidbits that you guys are going to run into when you're in the app. So first thing we're going to go over is our registration. So as soon as we invite you to become a user, you will receive a system-generated registration email. Here, we provided a screenshot of the Hourglass invitation you will receive. So you will receive this from no-reply@hourglassets.com. So this may land in some of your spam folders, so definitely keep an eye out, but we have made it so that won't happen, hopefully. But here on the email, you will see a hyperlink reading complete registration. So you can click on that to confirm your email address and create a new password for your user account. Next I'm going to go over is logging in. After you've completed your registration, you can now log into the CNA web app at app.hourglassets.com. Entering your work and newly created password to log into the CNA web app is how we're going to be logging in today. And if you're having any issues logging in, you feel free to contact our support team using the email and phone number provided at the bottom of your screen. So I don't really have that screenshot here, but we're going to go over some support later on in this presentation. So to get started on the app, we're going to be starting a CNA. So when you have successfully logged in, you will land on the assessment overview page. From here, you can start your first CNA by clicking the Start Assessment button. Soon, creating a new assessment will be its own page, but currently it will open a new window to the first step of starting your assessment, which is the Setup tab. So on the setup tab, it is required that you select the entity in which your assessment will be correlated to, the assessment type, which is currently just the comprehensive assessment needs or comprehensive needs assessment, sorry, flip that, and creating a unique assessment name. Okay. Next, after you have picked your assessment type, you will notice that the assessment team member section will fill with all team members and managers that are assigned to the combination of both the entity and assessment type fields. Clicking on the Add Team Member button will let you add new available team members, and clicking on the abbreviated names will open a separate window where you can remove team members from this assessment. The last remaining required field on the setup tab is the year field. To complete this section, simply click which year this assessment applies to. And after you have filled all required fields, the continue button will activate, and pressing it will lead you to the options tab. On this tab, we have three options. Choosing the first option will have you rating all available tenants on this assessment. The second one lets you select which tenants you wish to rate. And the third is a screener in which you will answer questions and your results will dictate which tenants you will rate. For now, we are going to select option 2 and manually select the tenants we want. Next on the selections tab, since we have chosen option 2, I can pick and choose which tenants I want, by clicking these boxes, these check boxes that we have. After you have made your choice, just press the continue button. On the ratings tab, you'll be completing each tenant you have selected by scoring the dimensions from each area of focus on a scale of 4 to 1 and not applicable. You are required to include evidence if you have scored anything besides the not applicable option. Scoring the not applicable option will change the evidence field to not be required. And if you are having trouble deciding what to score, you can click on the View Dimensions rubric text to see a breakdown of what the scoring options mean. Let this GIF go through again. So this is selecting evidence. And here is the dimensions rubric. Second. Okay. So if you have missed any required fields, you will see a nice yellow icon indicating where the missing rating is. After you've completed scoring all your tenants, the continue button will activate, which then you can move on. So you can see that nice yellow icon, clicking on it, and it will lead you to where we're missing some required information. Next, after you've completed your ratings, you will be led to the Supporting Documents tab. Here you can upload any supporting files to this assessment. Uploading supporting documents is optional, so for the sake of time, we will continue on to the Submissions tab. On the Submissions tab, some fields will be locked, and currently you may only change the assessment name, add or remove CNA team members, and add a period window. Once you have reviewed your assessment, press the Submit button to complete your assessment. So here we're showing the assessment name can be changed. So we just added a little bit. We're checking our CNA team. We can add anybody if we've missed anyone, and we can add a period window if necessary, but it is an optional field. So next, after you have submitted your first CNA, you can navigate to the Assessment Results Summary table, which is located on the assessment overview page. This table will compile all of the data from the CNAs that are created on the selected entity to display scoring trends for each domain, tenant, area of focus, and dimension. So you can see here, we're kind of showing off the hovering for each of the fields here, which shows a detailed overview of the certain trends and specific tenets, areas of focus, and domain. If you would like to see just one assessment's details, head over to the Insights page where we house the ratings detail table. This table has a dropdown which you can choose any created CNA. After finding your CNA, you will see all of the assessments data aggregated at the domain, tenant, and areas of focus levels, and the individual dimensions rating provided during the CNA scoring process. So you can see this table is empty. But once we go to the completed CNA, it fills with all the scoring that we did and the average for the domains, tenants, and areas of focus, and finally a detailed view of the dimensions. So next, we're going to find your completed CNA. So to view a report of a completed assessment, click on the Insights tab. From here, scroll down to the Assessment History table. So here we're seeing our completed assessment by going straight to the Insights page, scrolling a little bit down, and we find it here. When you have found your completed assessment, click the three-dot icon and select the View Assessment Scorecard option. A new tab will load showing an overview of your completed scorecard in detail. You can also print or export this assessment to an Excel file from this page. And you can see at the beginning of it, we had two little icons for the print and Excel at the top of the report. Show it one more time. There it is. All right, next, as we mentioned before, if you have started a CNA but have not finished it, it will be saved as a draft. You can either find your drafts on the draft box, which is on the assessment overview page, which is the landing page when you log in, or by navigating to the assessment history table, which is located on the Insights page, which we just showed you. After you have found your draft on the assessment history table, click the three-dot icon and press the edit option to pick up where you left off on your CNA. Or if you find your CNA in the draft box, you can click directly onto that tile and it will open your CNA from where you left off. So as we mentioned, a screener is provided to help identify tenants for a user to score. So when you have started a new assessment and have made it to the Options tab, select Take Screener to identify tenants and press Continue. This will lead you to our screener and start that process. As you complete the CNA screener, you will be asked to rate the extent to which your school addresses each question on a 7-point scale, ranging from 7 being to a great extent to 1, which is to no extent. This scale provides flexibility in scoring to better determine which tenants to focus on. And after you've completed your screener, you will be led to the Selections tab, which will check all recommended tenants based on your screener results. So this also works just like the Ratings tab, where you can see the yellow icon shows any missing data that is required. And you can navigate by clicking on these check marks or the caution, and you can see Continuing will lead to selecting just a couple of the tenants that we have provided. Next, we're going to go over our recommended resources. So NDE has provided recommended resources. These media items will be at the bottom of the assessment overview page. If you press the three-dot icon next to the media item, you can save this media item to your resources page or share the media item with your colleagues. Clicking on the media item will take you to the media items detail page where you can view, download, and rate this content. So this is just a view of that detail page of a PDF that NDE has provided for us. And we're going to go on here. Towards the top of the page, you will see quick links in the menu bar. NDE has also provided us helpful links, and clicking on any of these tiles will open the link to a new browser. So I have to go to the NDE site, of course. So if you are facing any issues or have any questions about the app, and no question is too little or too big, feel free to contact us. At the bottom of every page that we have, we do have our support email and phone number, being support@hourglassets.com. Or you can call and text us at 480-999-2378. We'll definitely get right back to you as soon as possible and help you resolve your issues. So please use that if you have any questions. And lastly, finally, after a long day of scoring CNAs, it's time to log out. So you simply scroll to the top of your page where you will see the profile icon. Here you will find the My Account option, which will give you an overview of your user account. And of course, the log out button. Pressing the log out button is just going to simply log your account out and lead you right back to the beginning to log in. And that is all we have. If there is any questions, we are ready to answer.
And I would say this is your opportunity. If there was anything that we covered that you would like to see again, now's your chance. If you have any specific questions about functionality, we've got Shirley, of course. So if you have any questions about the CNA instrument that you saw, the screener, now's your chance to ask. And I don't know if you guys have seen the chat messages, just one other thought. If you haven't, check that out. Shirley and I have been providing some commentary as Ro was presenting. And will you get a copy of this presentation in addition to the recording? Yes. It did go really fast. We were trying to make it so that we were short, sweet, and could get you guys on the way. And to that point, for those of you, as long as we knew that you were a pilot participant, we have your email address. You'll actually be receiving a registration email if for whatever reason you haven't connected with Shirley to become a formal pilot participant. Please do so. I imagine you all have, or you wouldn't have gotten the invitation today. But if we have your email address, you'll get a user registration email shortly. And then I see a great question from Jen at ESU4. Will a manual of sorts be available? And Ro, I actually wonder, can you, will you open up the actual app? Ro, to make things work for you, he added all of those animated GIFs into the PowerPoint presentation, but we'll actually pull up the app, and that way if you guys have some specific questions, we can show you. There is a help section in the app. Ro can show it to you in a second, and we'll be populating some initial help documentation. And then as you guys use the app, I would say one of the things that we would love for you to do is if you encounter something, you contact support, we find out that it's maybe something that somebody has a question about, we can add additional support documentation as we go. So great question. So this is the actual app. You can see app that we're not gonna ask you guys to remember this. It'll be in that user registration email that you guys received, but it's fairly easy to remember. App.hourglassets.com. So you can see this is the actual CNA web app. At the moment, Ro is looking at NDE demo school. And so for those of you, I guess this is a good opportunity for me just to clarify a little bit about the role since we have so many of you here. If you are an NDE support staff, to make it so that you can log in, actually engage with the CNA experience, be able to model that CNA experience for maybe your colleagues. We gave you NDE demo school, so it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a demo school. Any of the data that you create is only going to be associated to NDE demo school, and that means it's not actually related to a real school. And there's a lot of good opportunities that help with training and kind of showing it off and so on. However, Ro, does this particular user have more entities in the dropdown?
They do not at the moment.
Okay, so this is actually a really good approximation, again, of the CNA manager. So for those of you who are associated to a specific school, and that means you're either at a school or you are attached to a district and you are participating with a single school, then this is pretty close to your experience. So you're going to only see the school or schools that are tied to you because of your affiliation. Are we able to add to the drop-down list? Okay, I'll come back to that one in a second. So if you come in as NDE support staff, you'll actually see NDE demo school. If you come in as ESU support staff, you'll see all of the districts and schools that are within your purview. And I do want to make a note about this because we got some great feedback from the UAT group about that kind of association. We can change it at any given point in time. And what I mean by change is currently an ESU support staff member will see the districts and schools that are associated to your ESU. And that's purposeful because of the nature of this pilot. We really need to make sure that we're getting feedback about the CNA, the experience of using this web app. And to do that, we need to make sure that you guys have the most robust experience as possible. Should we decide that it actually is a better model for the ESUs, maybe not to necessarily have that same level of visibility down to the school level, that's just a switch that we can flip on our end. So just kind of keep that in mind that you're going to have complete visibility. It's purposeful. It's part of the pilot design and it's part of our research data collection process, and that can be changed. So I do want to make a note about that. And then if you guys have some follow-up questions, please do ask. Now let me tackle some of the questions that are in the chat window. So Kim, great question from your group. Are we able to add to the drop-down list of evidence, or do we have to use what is already there? Fantastic question. And Ro, can you actually show the drop-down list of evidence? So we do have, and this is based on UAT feedback, we added NA and other to all of the dimensions. And then if you click other, can you just show that, Ro? It gives you the opportunity to add in your evidence. And then one of the things, and again, this is really the purpose of the pilot, is for us to help learn. And by us, I'm talking about really NDE, and we support NDE. So we want to make sure that NDE figures out what is actually happening out in the field. And then if everybody starts picking some new type of evidence and we see that, then we can just go ahead and just add it for that particular dimension. So that's part of where the pilot is actually very similar to the UAT experience, where we want you to get in there, do it, give us feedback, and then we can be immediately responsive to your feedback. So I think that's my question for you, or my answer, Jen, is immediately use other. We'll monitor that. We'll see what people are using, and then we can add. Or if you just out of the gate have some recommendation, just let us know, and that's something we can easily add. Denise, will ESU staff be attached to the school we listed in our survey? Yes, provided that we correctly interpreted your survey responses. That is the design. So Denise, if you there's one, let me actually provide this response. If it was very clear that you signed up with a district partner and a school partner, then you're all connected up. If I did not, or was not immediately apparent that you signed up with a district and school partner, then to make sure that you can still have this experience, we just need you to, they don't need to participate. So a person at that district or school doesn't need to participate, but we'll want to pick a district that's associated to your ESU, a school that is associated to your ESU, and then you can get in and essentially score on their behalf if that makes sense. So if you know that you are clearly connected to a district and school, you'll see it. If that connection wasn't necessarily clear, then we can work with you to make sure that we get you the right kind of experience for you to engage with the app. Craig, great question. How frequently does the platform save the work? So there's a couple of different times where you're engaging with the app, and the experience is different, but only for the moment. And this was feedback that we got from the UAT group. So if you're starting an assessment, and what Ro is showing currently, if you close out of this, we're not going to save the assessment that you started because you didn't actually progress far enough in the creation of an assessment. And you can see that there's a warning message. It lets you know it's not going to be saved. So that's one component. If you're scoring or if you're participating in the screener currently does not save your work, but we got some great feedback from the UAT group about, the screener. If you're really engaged in the screener, it could actually be a lengthy process. So you had suggested that perhaps we could make that something that could be saved in draft format. And so we're currently working on that. And then there's so that's coming, and we'll push out notifications to this group to let you know as new features come online. And then the third experience is if you've actually started the CNA, and Ro, if you could just show those CNAs in draft status. Once you, and actually if you see on the bottom of his screen, it's saying that it's saved as draft. So if you've started a CNA and you haven't completed storing a CNA, the actual CNA will save as a draft as you go. And you'll see this kind of helpful messaging to let you know as stuff is saving. Each time you score something, you can see that it's saving. And so just know for now, there is a different experience from the screener to the actual CNA. And then we'll let you know when the screener behaves exactly like what you're seeing here with the CNA. So that was a great question. Does NDE, so Craig, another question from you. Does NDE have the same visibility as the ESU? Let me answer present state and then potential future state. Present state, because of the nature of the pilot, yes. And that is really critically important for the data collection. That's part of this pilot experience. Future state, not necessarily. And that's, again, that's one of those buttons that we can, push on our end, or I guess I'm not doing a button, I'm doing I don't know what this is, like a switch, light switch motion. So I'll call it a light switch. So we can turn the switch on or off for NDE's access. But for now, and that's really specific to the nature of the pilot, the scope of the pilot, the data collection that's happening during the pilot, the short duration of the pilot, the answer is yes, NDE has the same visibility. I'll pause there because that's a really important one. And Shirley, do you have any additional thoughts, or Craig, do you have additional questions about that one? Because I do think that's a really important question.
I'll jump in real quick, Craig, and then if you want to clarify or add any other context to the question, that'd be great. So thanks, Jeff. For the sake of the pilot, I think it is really important for us to be able to understand how schools are engaging with the tool, how ESUs are engaging with the tool, and how the NDE could support schools and ESUs to engage with the tool. So having that view would be able to help. The second component around that is also around some sources of evidence. Something I continue to hear throughout our travels is that people want like real world examples that are like with schools that are similar to their size or their demographic or whatever the case might be. So being able to do some of that crowdsourcing around potential resources is another great way to do that. But for the sake of what it would look like when we're like full implementation and running forward, that's a conversation that I think through this pilot we want to tease out, because I don't want it to seem, right, we said it's on accountability, but if NDE is watching, then what does that mean, right? So the intent is for this to be a true assessment of individual schools and for the NDE to be able to provide support around it, not for the NDE to be like, I see, Neb City's doing this, I'm going to go. No, that is not the intention at all, which is why we need the pilot study to help us to determine how do we strike that balance between wanting to support without being intrusive or potentially overstepping.
So can you clarify then, like, what are your expectations through the pilot in terms of doing a full one or doing multiple, a screener or individual? Because we did 1.0 and that has informed our MTSS process. So now what are your expectations with 2.0? So one, we help develop this and get it in a position where it's beneficial for everyone, but two, also balance that against the work we're already currently doing.
Yeah, so our hope is that we will be able to remove or replace the NEMTSS assessment with this tool, right? So we intentionally brought Amy Rohn and the NEMTSS team to the table to make sure that we weren't duplicating efforts and that we could in fact have one that's actually grounded in the tenets of AQuest. Mm-hmm. The other piece is that the expectation is like every school district is unique, and I don't want to say, Craig, I expect you all to do the entire needs assessment because you all are already full steam ahead in some processes. You might engage in a screener, and we're going to learn from whatever that process is that you engage in the screener. So the expectation is that you engage with the tool and that we learn about how you engage with the tool, not so much that you've produced a specific outcome or have submitted a specific thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so this next one, so Denise, another great question. So are there guiding documents to assist ESU staff to work with our school districts to complete the CNA tool? So I think kind of two-part answer to this one, and part of it actually was in the chat that happened earlier. So one, there are some extant resources that are available. Not all of them have been loaded into the CNA web app, but Ro, can you just go back to recommended resources? So there is an opportunity to see recommended resources in the app. Anyone who logs into the app currently is going to see the same set of new recommended resources. And then it's really an opportunity, so Shirley used a great word, to crowdsource. So I think there's, kind of coming at it from a few different directions. Shirley, if I could speak for you for a second. So the NDE is going to learn based on your use of the tool more about your needs and can be responsive with additional support. So I think that's one answer. Two, and I think this is the part that we're really excited about, and many of you were excited about during the UAT process, was you guys have access to some tools. So I'll just, ESU, Amy, if I can pick on you, ESU 13 may be developing a tool that ESU 4 doesn't have access to. We're hoping that you guys would be willing to crowdsource, and that's something that can actually get loaded as recommended resources for the entire group. So currently, there's at least a process by which something can get populated to recommended resources. Not all of you have been given the permission to have access to. So sitting behind there's a content management system where you can actually upload resources and they just show up in the tool directly. So that's kind of like future state. We'd like to open that up and be a little more responsive to where you can just start uploading resources and the community can see them. At least for the moment, we're going to say if you would like to crowdsource a particular guiding document that you find useful, if you pass it over to Shirley, Shirley can vet it, and then Shirley will have the ability to just load it to the CNA web app. So we can expand upon that. I think that's something we're excited to see as the pilot progresses, exactly how we can, best make this a community, kind of type project. So I think that's my response. Shirley, do you have any additional thoughts about Denise's question?
I just sent Denise a message and said, hey, can I chat with you on Friday? So I'm actually with Amy, who's right over there. So I know there were, and so Jen was also part of the pilot 1.0 and supporting documents, that kind of thing. I don't think I have access to all of those, but if I'm also interpreting the question a little differently, I wonder if there's maybe some more conversation we could have, especially with the ESU supports that are part of this pilot, around teasing out what particular level would be within a particular dimension and area of focus and tenet. So like those conversations, I'm wondering if that could also be part of this, or if it really is just about the resource like Jeff mentioned. Then either way, I think more conversations could never hurt. So TBD on that, Denise and company, but we'll figure something out for sure.
And that gets us to the end of the questions that are in the chat window. Anybody else? Any other questions? Anything else you'd like to see Rose show you in the app itself?
Oh, I do have another question, but I don't know if maybe he could show me. So if I give you I get an email registration and I log in to add a new member, does that member have to be pre-populated into something, or could I just add someone automatically?
That is a fantastic question. So for the purposes of the pilot, we don't want to overwhelm you. And sitting behind this, so there's a lot that's sitting behind this tool. And this is, you just open the door to another app that sits behind this one. So we have to have a way to get users into the app. And we have a user management application where if we gave you the permission, this is another, I'll do the light switch. So all of our permissions are like light switches. We flip the light switch and you get access to the user management app. And in that app, you would be able to add additional users. What we were hoping is for the kind of kickoff of the pilot to get you guys actually engaged in the tool and not caught up in the, kind of the rigmarole of getting people into the tool. We were just going to add people for you on demand. So I would say that's just a reach out to Shirley, as long as this is okay with you. If you just contact technical support, and again, Ro, can you actually scroll to the bottom of the page? Once you're in the app, you can see every page on the app. That's what Ro is referencing, has the email address. You can call us, you can text us. Text is always really fun. So if you feel like texting, we've got a lot of success with that. We've had people text like, hey, I'm in town, like what's a great restaurant? Things like that, or it could be more technical support focused, your choice. But contact us, we'll just add users on demand. And then the main thing would be, we just need to know, who are they and what role they should have. And I would say for us, as long as, if it's any of you, we know you're authorized to participate in the pilot, we'll add folks on your behalf. So just reach out to us and let us know. That's one part. And then the second part is once somebody gets loaded, so there's kind of the two functions. So one is, how do I get a user registered to access the web app? And that means they have their email address is registered, they have a password they can log in, and they can see the right just school information. The second part is that distinction between the CNA manager role and the CNA team member role. And I'll come back to this one. And this is also something we really want to hear about as you guys engage with the tool, because we imagine that we don't know who's going to participate at that school level. And so somebody's got to act as a manager, and that means that you can, Ro, can you go back and just show that functionality? It means you can invite team members to score a CNA with you. The CNA manager is the only one that can start the CNA. The CNA manager is the only one that can submit a final version of the CNA. The CNA manager is the only one who can invite CNA team members. But once you add a CNA team member to a CNA, and so that's what Ro's showing you right now. So you have an assessment team. You can, as long as you have registered users, they'll populate registered users that are associated to this school. They'll populate to that window. They can be added as CNA team members, and the CNA manager can just do all of that from the app. So I would at least draw a distinction between, are we inviting somebody to the app itself, or are you just managing people who have already been invited and registered? And that becomes a really easy process. And here's why I'm really excited on the NDE's behalf. And I would say for all of you guys, we're really curious to see what do different, what are the combinations of stakeholders who engage in the CNA tool? And we're really interested to hear more feedback about that, because is it always the principal? Is it always the school leadership team formally? Maybe school leadership team is, I say formally, but that means all kinds of different things to different folks. So I think that's what we're really looking for. Who is actually engaging in the CNA? Tell us more about that. And if for whatever reason you find the roles limiting with CNA manager and CNA team member, let us know. And that's something where we can always create a new role and give that new role new permissions. So let us know how that goes, and we'll be responsive.
As soon as I get a registration link and I sign up, I will be ready to go and use the web app, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
As long as, so again, just disclaimer, we saw the results from the Google surveys. Some of them were, really easy to interpret. If we have a question, we'll be reaching out to you just to ask some follow-up information. And again, that was that great question earlier. Are you just automatically going to see your districts and schools? There may be some select cases where you may log in and say, I don't see anything, and then we'll figure out exactly what you should see to make it a robust experience for you. Yes, and Mike, great point. So if for whatever reason more information comes across, so I know not everybody who's watching this is physically, as much as you can be physically present in a virtual session here right now. So if you're joining us and you're watching this as a recording, if you have already contacted Shirley and you've been put on the list as a pilot participant, then you either already have gotten the user registration email or you will soon get that user registration email. If you're participating live with us right now, you should be getting that just any second. And then I have a question just for my own edification, and I think you guys can you do the raising hand feature? I think you can. Okay, I can raise my hand. If you're actually at a school, can you raise your hand? I'm curious. Okay, so Lindsay, okay, so you're actually at that's fantastic. Jay Miller, I can't tell your first name from your handle there.
James.
Okay, Fantastic. All right. And then if you are at a district, can you raise your hands? Fantastic. Okay. And then if you are at an ESU, will you raise your hand? Just so we can get a sense of who's out there. Let's see. Okay. So Jen, Denise, Amy. All right. And then everybody who didn't raise a hand, I imagine means that you are part of the NDE. Is that correct? Or you're part of our team? Fantastic. Okay, so we've got a good mix of folks. All right. Well, for our purposes, if there are no other questions, then we would like to thank you guys. And we're excited that you guys get to get in there and use the CNA web app and engage in the CNA 2.0. But please do just know that we're responsive. Reach out to Shirley if you'd like to, if you have some ideas, obviously, and Shirley can pass those on. Reach out to technical support. We'd love to hear from you, not just with challenges, but just, let us know about your experience. And that's really the goal of the pilot from our perspective, is to give you guys the best experience, hear your feedback, make modifications to the app on demand. And thank you guys. And then Shirley, I'll turn it over to you to close us out.
Thanks, Jeff and team and everyone who's still on. It definitely did go by fast, but once you're in it, it seems like it's pretty user-friendly and intuitive, which is awesome. So thank you all, Hourglass team, for making that happen. And yeah, this is all happening in the name of continuous improvement and continuous learning and growth, right? So wanting to make sure that ESU's NDE district and schools are all working in unison towards supporting, improving and sustaining positive educational outcomes for all of our kids across our state. And this is just one small step in that. So any questions, comments, concerns, you know how to reach the Hourglass team, you know how to reach me. And I'll send a follow-up email with the recording and also just some other info for you all. So thank you all very, very much. I'm going to stop recording now.